I'll call to order this meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for December the 12th, 2024. We'll start with a roll call agenda. Commissioner Allen is away with a family funeral. And Commissioner Franks.
Present.
Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay is present. Commissioner Mann.
Present.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent tonight. Okay. All right, we'll start off. We'll talk about citizen comments. This is a time that's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to speak on a specific item that is already on our agenda, we ask you to wait until that comment period is open for that item. But for all citizen comments, we ask you to fill out a speaker card. So there are speaker cards on the table by the column, and then hand it to one of our staff members, Tia. And then when it's your turn and I call for speakers, then you can come to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 2 minutes. So if there's anyone who wants to speak to an item that's not on the agenda, you're welcome. You're free to do that at this point. Anybody want to make a comment? Okay, seeing none. The approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes tonight. First, the consideration of approval for the October 24th, 2024 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission meeting minutes as our normal October meeting. Is there a motion on that, on the approval of those minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
Was that a move for approval by by Commissioner Peterson, by Alderman Peterson? And a second by Commissioner McLemore.
That's correct.
Okay, by roll call, Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks? Aye. Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent, so those minutes are approved. The second item is the minutes for a special meeting that was held last week. This is consideration of approval for the December 2nd, 2024 Special Franklin Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there a motion for that item?
Move for approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner McLemore
Second.
and a second by Alderman Peterson. Any corrections or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, by roll call, Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Abstain.
Abstain? Okay. And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. Okay. Announcements. Staff, are there any announcements tonight?
Yes, I just have one announcement. Some of you are probably aware, and some of you may not be, that we are going to begin to update our preservation plan, which hasn't been updated in over 20 years, starting in the beginning of 2025. And we're likely going to be identifying a steering committee as part of that update that would have some daytime meeting commitments associated with it. But I wanted to announce that to you in case any of you are interested in serving on a steering committee for the preservation plan. If you could reach out directly to me and we can discuss it, I'd really appreciate that. We're not looking for everybody to necessarily serve on the steering committee, but we would like to have an FMPC representative if possible. So just wanted to open it to you, and please just consider it and reach out to me if you might be interested.
Okay. Preservation plan.
And also happy holidays. This is our last meeting of 2024. So just want to hope you and your families all have a very Merry Christmas and wonderful New Year. In February, Starting in February of 2025, we will be meeting at the county admin complex as we will be moving out of City Hall in January. So just be prepared for that move as well.
Okay, great. Okay, next is the approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are generally considered to be non-controversial, and by placing those items on the consent agenda, they're handled in one motion without any deliberation and questioning and what have you. So the consideration tonight of approval by consent of items 4 through 10, items 13 through 14, items 25 through 29, and items 36 through 39, all on the consent agenda. Is there a motion for those? Does anybody wish to pull an item from consent? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Orr, and a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison.
Yep.
By roll call, Commissioner Franks. Aye. Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. So the consent agenda passes. So our first item that we will actually take up tonight, there are a good number, maybe a dozen or so, of items that involve calling surety. And so the first item is item number 11. And in this, item 11 is Echelon PUD subdivision, site plan, sections 1 through 3. Call on the letter of credit for performance agreement for landscaping buffers improvements, and the call on a letter of credit for maintenance agreement for landscaping open space improvement. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this memorandum is that for the FMPC concerning this subdivision is on November the 8th, 2024, the city was notified that Legacy Palmetto Bluff Company, LLC, is not in a position to complete the remaining work in the Echelon PUD subdivision, and that they intend to dissolve their company on or before December 31st, 2024. As there is still $55,000 of improvements unfinished in the Echelon PUD subdivision site plan sections 1 through 3, staff feels it is imperative to call the remaining sureties. A list of individual sections are attached to your forms, on Civic Clerk. But I do have one for each individual subdivision, and we will have to do them separately, but all of them are because of this
Right.
letter.
All up to the last two, I think, with Republic Bank.
That's right. It is.
So a great majority of them will be because of the Legacy Palmetto Bluff Company.
Correct. And staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Echelon PUD subdivision site plan sections 1 through 3 to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none. These are all have kind of cumbersome, long motions, so I will make the motion, and then I'll seek someone to say so moved or what have you. So I'm seeking a motion to declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Echelon PUD subdivision site plan, sections 1 through 3, to be in default, and to authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements. Would anyone seek
I'll
to?
second that motion.
Okay, just say, so moved.
So
Okay.
moved.
So moved by Alma. And a second?
Down here.
Scott? Seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any discussion?
Will you have enough to cover the $55,000? Do we know?
We're not for sure just yet. It's been a while since the inspectors have been out to inspect these sites because they've been out for so long as well. But we're going to try to get, engineering is going to help with changing some, if we need to, I would assume, to make sure that we've got enough money to cover.
Is there an expiration date on the letter of credit?
The expiration date is the end of this year.
The end of the
Tw-
year, and
yeah.
that's
That's
the
the
reason
reason.
for the
Yeah.
urgency
Yeah.
of making the decision to call them right now.
Yeah.
So we can do that over the next week or so. Okay, so by roll call,
We got someone.
I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening. Happy holidays to you. This is very concerning as we've had this conversations about developers who have completed a project to gain occupancy to buildings, but haven't completed what they've been required to do, and that was secured by performance sureties. And, this is not the first time that we've had to call performance sureties, but we will be discussing with the Development Services Advisory Commission what to do. Because if we don't have the funds to complete these projects, that means that the city will have to come up with that revenue or take action legally against these entities individually since they're part of an LLC. And perhaps maybe prohibiting them from doing work in Franklin for the foreseeable future if they have a presence here in the community. So I just wanted to share that. We're going to talk to our Development Services Advisory Commission as well as our board as we go forward.
Right,
Thank you.
okay.
But I've said this before, and I'll say it again, just once. I know we're going to do a number of these, but we sit here and painstakingly go over plans. Excuse me. Put a lot of thought into the developments that we want in our city, and it's so disappointing when it's not finished, and then even more disappointing when there's not enough funds left to finish the job. So I applaud the city for taking these actions. I know it's difficult, but it makes the work we do in here and on the front end worthwhile.
Good, thank you. Okay, so by roll call, Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson is absent. Okay, the next item, number 12, Echelon PUD Subdivision Final Plat, Section 3. This is a call on the letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage improvement and a call on the letter of credit for maintenance agreement for green infrastructure improvements. Staff.
Again, this is the same. On November the 8th, 2024, the city was notified that Legacy Palmetto Bluff Community LLC is not in a position to complete the remaining work in the Echelon PUD subdivision and that they intend to dissolve their company on or before December 31st, 2024. As there is still $41,600 of improvements unfinished in the Echelon PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3, staff feels it is imperative to call the remaining sureties. The $41,600 is the total of $17,100 associated with the maintenance agreement for green infrastructure improvement and $24,500 associated with the remaining amount of the performance agreement for the drainage improvement after it was previously approved for a reduction. A list of the individuals are added to your, your packet. So staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Echelon PUD subdivision final plat, section 3 to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements.
Thank you, Melody.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there a motion? And so I'm seeking again, a motion to declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Echelon PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements. We
Second.
have a motion by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do by roll call. Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks? Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. So that motion passes to declare that in default. Item number 15, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3. Call on a letter of credit for maintenance agreement for drainage improvements. Melody?
Mr. Chair, before Melody starts, would you just like us to run through the amount?
Why don't we, yeah, that's fine with
Instead
me.
of, since up until item number 22, the staff recommendation is exactly the same except for the amounts of the sureties.
Okay.
So if that's okay with you,
Okay,
Melody.
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. Let's do that. Do the amounts.
Okay, for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3, the, a total amount is $14,700 of improvements. So staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement.
Thank you, Melody. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 3, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
You have a motion by Commissioner Orr,
Second.
second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Franks. Aye. Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent as well. That motion passes. Item number 16, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 4. Call on letter of credit for maintenance agreement for drainage and green infrastructure improvements. Staff?
The dollar amount for this improvement is $26,400. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 4, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 4, to be in default and to authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements. Is there a motion on this one?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, point of order. This is number 16, right? It's a
Exactly.
credit for maintenance
Yeah.
agreement.
16?
15.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Yes. it's-
Yeah, this is 16. Okay, is there a motion for this one?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks? Aye. Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 17, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 5. Call on letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage improvement. Go staff.
The dollar amount is $42,750. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 5, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 5, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Orr and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Allen's absent. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 18, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, Section 6. Call on letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage improvement. Melody?
The total is $20,750. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 6, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 6, to be in default and to authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement. Is there a motion on this item?
So moved.
Was that a?
Yes, so moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mann and a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any discussion on this item? By roll call, Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 19, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, Section 7. Call on letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage and green infrastructure improvements. Staff presentation?
There's $69,750 for this one. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 7, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvements.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, Section 7, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvements. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mann,
Second.
second by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 20, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision site plan, Section 8. Call on letter of credit for performance agreement for landscaping improvement. Melody?
Yes, the total amount for this is $66,000. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision site plan, Section 8, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and the surety for completion of the improvement.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision site plan, Section 8, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for completion of the improvement. Is there a motion from this?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Orr and a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 21, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 8. Call on letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage and green infrastructure improvements. Melody?
The total for this one is $136,500. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision final plat, section 8, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance and maintenance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, final plat, section 8, to be in default, and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement. Does anyone, is there a motion on this item?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Orr, and a second? Is that Commissioner Harrison?
Here. You do the second now.
Is there any discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Item number 22, Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision, site plan sections 8 through 11, mass grading. Call on a letter of credit for performance agreement for drainage improvement. Melody?
Total on this one is $156,000. Staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision site plan sections 8 through 11, mass grading, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for completion of the improvement.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the performance agreement for Lockwood Glen PUD subdivision site plan sections 8 through 11, the mass grading, to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreement and surety for the completion of the improvement. Do I have a motion? I
Second.
have a motion by Commissioner Franks and a second by Commissioner Harrison. By roll call, Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. So that motion passes. Item number 23. This is a standard at Cool Springs subdivision, site plan revision 1, lot 1, the True Hotel. Call on a letter of credit for maintenance agreement for landscaping improvement. And I think that the bank has, you want to cover that, just cover that, Melanie?
Yes, we actually went in and the inspectors went in this week and inspected this project, even though we got a non-renewal letter of credit from the bank. And the improvements have passed, so we are going to release the improvements instead of calling them.
Okay.
So our recommendation is for number 23 is standard at Cool Springs subdivision site plan revision 1, lot 1, True Hotel, is to recommend the release of the maintenance agreement for landscaping improvements.
Okay. Recommend the release.
Correct.
So this is different from what you had.
Correct. Yes. We were going to call, but they had said that they had gotten the improvements completed, and our inspectors went out there at the beginning of this week and inspected it, and it's what it's supposed to be. So
Okay.
we're going to release the letters of credit.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to declare the release of the surety for the Standard at Cool Springs subdivision, site plan revision 1, the release of security.
So moved.
Was that you, Commissioner
That's me.
McLemore?
That's
Second.
me.
And a second by Commissioner Orr. Any discussion? Commissioner Franks? Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. So that motion passes to release the surety. And item number 24, the Standard at Cool Springs subdivision, final plat revision 3, the resub of Lot 1, call on letter of credit for maintenance agreement for green infrastructure improvement. Melody?
Okay, this one is the same way. We received a non-renewal letter of credit from the bank. The inspectors went out there at the beginning of this week and inspected it, and staff recommends that Standard of Cool Springs subdivision final plat revision 3 resub of lot 1 release the maintenance agreement and letter of credit for green infrastructure improvement.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to authorize release of surety on the Standard at Cool Springs subdivision, final plat revision 3, a resub of Lot 1. And that'd be a release of surety for the green infrastructure improvement. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Was that a motion by Commissioner Harrison? And a second by Commissioner McLemore. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes to authorize release of surety on the Standard at Cool Springs subdivision. Whew. Okay. Item number 30, this is a public hearing, consideration of Resolution 2024-80, a resolution to adopt an Envision Franklin Plan amendment for a parcel located at 354 Franklin Road, known as MAP 063, parcel 02800, to change the design concept from rural reserve to village green and to add a special consideration to the village green design concept. Staff presentation.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting a withdrawal for this Envision Franklin Plan amendment request for the property at 354 Franklin Road, or better known locally as the Roper's Knob property. This item was deferred at the September Planning Commission meeting to tonight, and the notice of public hearing was already published last month prior to the applicant's withdrawal request, so a public hearing must be held tonight. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission go ahead and hold that public hearing and make a motion to withdraw Resolution 2024-80. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have a public hearing. Does anyone filled out a speaker card or, okay. So I will call you to the lectern and in groups of, say, 3 or 4, and allow you to come forward and speak. Again, we ask you to give us your name and address, and we ask you to hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. So I've got Bailey, Hashel Bailey, Elaine Harrison, and let's see, 32.
Hello.
I think the others are for 32,
My name's
32,
Elaine
30.
Harrison. I live at 322.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Elaine Harrison, and I live at 322 Ash Drive. And I am glad that the applicant withdrawn the construction site to be held behind my house. And I'm glad that it's withdrawn, and I hope it doesn't come back up again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Herschel Bailey. That's my mom. I'm at 322 Ash Drive in Franklin. The name, I have to tell you, is Herschel because we keep getting it incorrect.
I'm missing a letter in your file.
But anyway,
Okay.
this parcel of land is very special to the neighborhood and it's very special to the citizens. It's a beautiful parcel of property. And it's been, there, we've lived there for over 50 years and it's gorgeous. We have gorgeous, just beautiful landscaping. It just doesn't need to be touched. I don't see a need for it to be touched at all. And I'm glad that it's not going through. And if they keep bringing it up, we will be here to say no. We were driving through there the other day and there are beautiful deer and, you see the turkey and we see this stuff every morning when we get up, and it's just a nice area. I just don't see the need for any development back there at all. That's it. Happy
Right.
holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Herschel. Happy holidays to you, too. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to item 30? Okay. So that I declare the public hearing closed. Is there anyone here representing the applicant? Okay. So the applicant declines to speak at this point. So I'm looking for a motion to withdraw this item. Is there a motion such?
Move to
So-
withdraw this item from the
We
agenda.
have a motion by Commissioner Harrison
And I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any further discussion? This is on a motion to withdraw the item. Okay, Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. Okay, item number 31, again, is a public hearing. Consideration of Resolution 2024-95, a resolution to adopt an Envision Franklin Plan Amendment to establish a property located east of 5 Mile Creek, south of 5 Mile Crossing, north of Goose Creek Bypass, and west of Interstate 65, a special consideration for the regional commerce design concept. Staff presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as stated, this application is to amend Envision Franklin by creating a new special consideration for the regional commerce design concept, defined as the property located east of 5 Mile Creek, south of 5 Mile Crossing, north of Goose Creek Bypass, and west of Interstate 65, the area of which can be seen in the map that is attached to your item in Civic Clerk, just to make that a little bit clearer for you. This special consideration, as proposed by the applicant, would state that standalone multifamily is appropriate for the identified area, and then the maximum height should be 6 stories. Currently, Envision Franklin states that multifamily uses in the regional commerce design concept should be vertically mixed with ground floor commercial uses and upper story residential. Additionally, it specifically states that single-use multifamily development within regional commerce is not contemplated and should be reserved for the multifamily residential design concept. Envision Franklin states that the plan amendments must demonstrate need and justification for 5 different criteria. These criteria are outlined in the staff report attached to this item, along with the full staff responses to each, as well as the applicant responses are included in the applicant submittal attached to this item as well. However, staff does not believe that 3 of the 5 criteria can be met, and therefore staff is recommending disapproval of Resolution 2024-95.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there someone from representing the applicant?
Hi, Jeff Rosiak with Gamble Design Collaborative. Ross Raven from Madison Capital, representing the developer, is also here tonight, and we appreciate your consideration. We're asking for this special consideration to be added to the regional commerce design concept. As you and Eric have read, we very narrowly defined the location of this special consideration to this property. It's very specific to this property. If you'll go to the next slide. You can see that the property is located at the northwest corner of the I-65 interchange and Goose Creek bypass. This property, based on its proximity to Berry Farms, already benefits from a very mixed-use community. You can see the existing pattern of development with commercial uses at Berry Farms close to Goose Creek bypass with access to Goose Creek bypass. Thank you. And you can see the existing residential, the approved residential at Berry Farms to the north, and the multifamily uses kind of in the middle, away from Goose Creek bypass, close to the office uses. If you'll go to the next slide. Berry Farms is in the neighborhood mixed-use design policy. This property is in the more intense regional commerce design concept. A few of the uses supported in regional commerce, regional commercial, local commercial, hotels, multifamily residential when part of a master plan mixed-use development. Multifamily residential, as Eric read, should be vertically mixed with ground floor commercial and upper story residential. Additional multifamily residential and standalone buildings may be part of a master planned mixed-use development, but single-use multifamily development is not contemplated. So multifamily residential, limited townhomes, and live-work residential are the only residential uses that are permitted in the regional commerce design concept. This property is currently zoned RC12. The zoning allows for commercial buildings up to 12 stories in height. And there's also on the north side of the property a previously approved and under construction self-storage building. Under RC12, 40% of the total square footage of a proposed development can be developed as multifamily by right. Had multifamily been proposed at the same time as this as the storage building, multifamily would have been permitted. Because of timing and financing deadlines, the developer wasn't able to do that. They had to move forward with the self-storage facility, even though they were contemplating multifamily at the time. As a result of these two processes being separated, the multifamily is now considered a standalone multifamily, and the adjacency to Berry Farms and their mixed-use community is not considered relevant. So as Eric kind of read, our request is worded as followed. For the property located east of 5 Mile Creek, south of 5 Mile Crossing, north of Goose Creek Bypass, and west of I-65. So again, narrowly defined to that parcel. A standalone multifamily development is appropriate along the frontage of Goose Creek Bypass and I-65 due to restricted access from Goose Creek Bypass, the proximity to commercial uses, and the availability of pedestrian infrastructure to the Berry Farms Town Center retail and office uses. The maximum height for a standalone multifamily building at this location should be 6 stories, so reducing the height from that 12-story height that might otherwise be permitted. Go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. I moved it down. Yeah, go to, I think it's slides, yeah, that one. Great, thank you. So we're confident that we can activate the ground floor of this multifamily residential by locating amenities, fitness rooms, community spaces on the first floor, by providing sidewalks from the residences to the street. We'll create ground floor activity for our street frontage and internal drive frontage. If we go to the next slide. The architecture is preliminary and still a work in progress, but we've started to put together models and building massing. You can see that we're addressing the surrounding streets by pushing up to the exit to the interchange and to Goose Creek Bypass. We've separated the buildings and created open space at the hard corner. And again, you can see that height is much lower than the what's potentially allowed in RC12. If you go to the next one. This property has great connectivity by pedestrian access, bike access, or even vehicular access to the mixed-use Berry Farms community. Restaurants are only a bike ride away. Offices and places of work are an easy bike ride away. Shopping is an easy car ride away. If somebody hops in their car to pick up groceries, those trips can be internally captured. They don't have to get on Goose Creek Bypass. They don't have to leave Berry Farms. Staff has mentioned that commercial makes sense at this location, but this parcel can't get vehicular access from a connection to Goose Creek Bypass. From a commercial viability standpoint, it's a half a mile from the nearest access point to Goose Creek Bypass, and it's effectively on a dead end. Staff has mentioned that hotels could make sense here, but there are 3 existing hotels in Berry Farms, and you drive by 2 of them to get to this site. We don't think commercial makes sense here. We don't think hotel makes sense here. This parcel, with its restricted access from Goose Creek Bypass and with limited commercial viability, makes sense as a multifamily use in the I-65 corridor, where Planning Commission and BOMA have repeatedly said that that's the most likely place for it, most appropriate place for it. One other thing to note on this, if you'll go to the next slide, on the next slide is that access to this multifamily parcel is through the commercial areas of Berry Farms. You don't have to go through the residential areas. There's no impact on the residential streets or on the residences. As staff has stated, there are 5 considerations they evaluate when considering an Envision Franklin amendment. The first is significant changes have happened since the adoption of Envision Franklin. This proposal could have gone forward as a by right use if it had been submitted concurrently to the storage facility. It was envisioned at the time, but again, for various reasons, financing and timing, that couldn't happen. Once ground was broken on the storage facility, the multifamily could no longer qualify under the existing base zoning. Because it's considered a standalone multifamily, it's not supported in the regional commerce design concept. So even though multifamily is supported as part of a mixed-use development. The second criteria is that the proposal is consistent with the overall intent of Envision Franklin. A special consideration to allow multifamily at this location would allow for much needed diversity of housing in an area that we think makes sense for multifamily and that BOMA and Planning Commission have said makes sense for multifamily. This use is very consistent with the already established pattern of development at Berry Farms. And this proposal would allow for a node of residential development with easy access to the surrounding mixed-use development, both pedestrian and vehicular, and those vehicular trips would be internally captured with very short local trips. I think staff has agreed with the third criteria, that it's compatible with the design concepts of the surrounding area, and the fourth criteria, which is that the project doesn't adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. The fifth criteria is substantial improvements in the quality of life for Franklin citizens will be achieved. Without this special consideration, this property, as it has, will continue to sit undeveloped as a commercial use. With this special consideration, this policy can meet a need for diversity of housing in an area that makes sense for multifamily development and is consistent with the residential goals of Envision Franklin. And last slide. I read the language of this, and Eric read the language of this, but in short, we're asking the Planning Commission to consider that this is not a viable site for commercial use. and instead ask for your support for a special consideration for this property that's best suited for multifamily development with a direct connection to the commercial uses at Berry Farms. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
I got a question. Roger. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I can ask you. Motion.
This is,
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
I want to make a motion to approve the applicant's request.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Franks and a second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, but mine's with comments like Jimmy's is.
Are these multifamily units for sale or for rent?
Likely for rent product.
Rent product?
I have a question.
I think Scott was
Yes,
next.
Commissioner Mann?
So why ask for a special consideration in regional commerce instead of just asking for an amendment to multifamily residential?
We kind of conferred with staff over the kind of ultimate ask, and this seemed like a simpler, less impactful to Envision Franklin.
To clarify, they're ultimately, if they decided to go and change the design concept to multifamily, they were also going to request a special consideration to go along with it. So rather than go through a change to the design concept and create a special consideration, staff thought it was simpler to just create a special consideration that ultimately did the same thing that would have happened should they just change the design concept and create a special consideration for the multifamily residential design concept.
I'm guessing that special consideration for multifamily would have been to increase the height from 3 to 6. So, okay, that was my question.
I think
is this a
Scott
public
answered.
hearing? Is this a public hearing?
I'm sorry?
I said, is this a public hearing?
We skipped that, didn't we?
Did I call for a public hearing?
He did. He did.
I thought I did.
You asked? Okay.
Okay.
I can support this project because commercial in that area is not viable. I mean, I think, in my opinion, if you come in and put, even a single building user would not like to have their corporate headquarters at that location due to access and lack thereof access. And if you try to come in and put specialized commercial or retail on the first floors, you're going to wind up with a first floor ghost town. So I would be supporting this to work it in as they have suggested, bringing the amenities of the apartments into the first floor and working with that. And I think you'll have a viable project that will meet the standards of the city of Franklin and be well received.
Okay. Was there any other comments?
How many units
That was my
are you
question.
think? So 6 floors. How many units are I think what it's coming down to, I think I can support multifamily. It's a matter of height, and that comes down to a matter of number of units and potential impact on the community.
Yeah, really due to kind of the spatial constraints, it's not as
not
many
a lot.
units as might otherwise be expected on this site. We haven't nailed down the plan, but, in the neighborhood of 200.
Well,
That's
it's
not-
so many acres, right?
Sorry?
What's our zoning on that? 50 units per acre there, if it goes apartments, or is it less? No density requirement, but it is parking related, and certainly a number of parking spots.
They're showing.
Sorry, can you clarify that question again?
Well, I mean, the density, then there's not a density.
There's not a density requirement in RC 6. There's a square footage requirement that it's a proportion of the commercial on the site. Really what's going to dictate how many units they can get there is probably the parking
Yeah,
along with the site features
right.
and how many, and yeah. But they can do parking structures that, you can stack cars just like you can stack people.
Hi, Greg Gamble, Gamble Design Collaborative. Right now, we're planning about 170 apartments total in the buildings. Now, I will say that this is going to require a development plan. We're going to have to rezone the property to PD. It's going to be a development plan. The architecture, the height, the massing, everything is going to come back to Planning Commission,
Right.
but ultimately has to be approved by the board and mayor and alderman.
Right.
So tonight is just an Envision Franklin Plan Amendment request.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Other comments, questions? So as Greg pointed out, this is an Envision Franklin Plan Amendment, so.
I think before we do quick, before I'm trying to process all of that, trying to figure out. I think I can support this change. I get it. I think 3 stories is probably not enough. My gut tells me 6 might be too many, but it's going to depend on how many units there are. So I do think that's a conversation for the next step. So I'll be supportive of this, but we want to kind of flag that I am cautious of how many units that we're going to put in the building.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? So we have a motion for approval of the resolution. Motion made by Commissioner Franks, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Allen is absent. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes approving that resolution. Item number 32. We've got, let's see. Consideration of ordinance 2024-42, an ordinance to rezone 13.42 acres from estate residential, the ER district, to civic institutional, CI district, for the property located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Franklin Road and Machatcher Memorial Parkway. The staff presentation.
Thank you. The applicant is proposing to rezone 13.42 acres from estate residential to civic institutional. The Envision Franklin Land Use Plan places the subject parcel into the rural reserve design concept. The rural reserve design concept allows for institutional uses with a special consideration that states that new institutional uses and the expansion of existing institutions may be appropriate if the location does not adversely impact access, scale, and traffic of the surrounding area. New uses should be located along arterials or collectors and also located at intersections or designed with a master plan development. A traffic impact analysis may be required to assess the transportation impacts of the proposed development. The requested rezoning does align with the goals and recommendations of Envision Franklin, as the site is along Franklin Road, which is a major arterial, and at an intersection, Machatcher Parkway and Franklin Road. Envision Franklin also promotes the preservation of 50% of the site in permanent open space, particularly in natural features such as scenic view sheds. While rezoning to civic institutional district will not guarantee the specific minimum amount of open space is preserved with a proposed site design, the site is encumbered by the scenic corridor overlay along both Franklin Road and Machatcher, thereby preserving large contiguous portions of scenic view shed. If the rezoning request to civic institutional district is approved, the following uses would be allowed by right through the site plan process with approval by the Planning Commission. Cemeteries, charitable, fraternal, or social organizations, clinics, continuum of care facilities with additional regulations, educational facilities, entrepreneurship/innovation centers, essential services, group homes, hospitals, museums, places of public assembly, and rehabilitation centers. There was a public comment mailed to staff, and it was included in Civic Clerk as an attachment. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Ordinance 2024-42. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got three speakers, I think, that have indicated a desire to speak. Darren Hoke, Bob Ravener, and Roderick Heller. If you'd like to come to the lectern.
Good evening. My name is Darren Hauk. I am the controller at Franklin First United Methodist Church, which is adjacent to the property in question. Our church takes the position that the current ER zoning of the property is optimal given the constraints of the site. Our church is not unalterably opposed to rezoning to CI, but believes a traffic impact analysis should be done and urges the Planning Commission to request that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Mr. Heller?
My name is Rod Heller, 1344 Carnton Lane, here in Franklin. I'm here as the managing member of Franklin Preservation Partners, which is the owner of this tract. And I'm here really to give the context in which this proposal is presented to you. And the history is essential because this is part of an effort we have been making over the last 2.5 years to preserve the last undeveloped corridor into Franklin. You may recall that in the spring of 2022, the last effort to develop both sides of this road was before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. One alderman said, this may be the best we're ever going to get, so we should approve it. Several of us in the audience, including Mr. Ravener, who will be speaking, and I then decided to speak and felt that the city could do better than simply accepting that development proposal. Accordingly, we formed Franklin Preservation Partners. We announced publicly in a meeting on November 1st that we would be acquiring the 62 acres on both sides of Franklin Road, including the 13 acres subject here. The remaining acreage was 44 plus acres across the street, and then the almost 4 acre site known as Creekside. We then proceeded in discussions principally with the city and the Methodist Church, using as our model the Eastern Flank Battlefield Protection, which was done in 2003 as a public-private partnership between the city and others. We began discussions with the Methodist Church in the fall of 2022, and we've had many, many meetings with the church as well as the city. During the course of our discussions, the city, in our view, imaginatively and with a lot of leadership, came forward with a broader program. And they envisioned this 62 acres would fit into an effort to ensure the preservation of much of the land in this undeveloped area. We then had extensive discussions and had a series of agreements at the end of 2023. The principal component was first the sale by Preservation Partners to the city of 44 plus acres under easement restrictions, essentially continuation of the current zoning. Second, a sale with easement of the Creekside property. And then last, and most importantly for purposes today, the sale of the 13 acres of which we're speaking to the city. The city would then trade those 13 acres to the Methodist Church in return for the 33 acres owned by the church, including, incidentally, the McMahon House, which is a property there, known as the Racetrack, which is in a floodplain adjacent to property held by Friends of Franklin Parks. Under that, we expected to be able to effect all this, feeling we had an agreement with the church, but certainly with the city. Obviously, we were mistaken with the church because for reasons we still don't fully understand, the church decided not to go forward with the transaction. They would not be spending any money, but they would be giving up 33 acres that they obviously felt important. That left us somewhat in a period of uncertainty, but we worked out a program. The city then acquired the 44 acres, and it is now protected fully, so it'll never be subject to development that was threatened 2 years ago. Similarly, we have promised to sell the Creekside property for under protective easement, one of the older historic houses here. We would prefer not to sell this property for 6 houses, which we can do now under the existing zoning. We prefer instead, as we have a contract signed on August 4th, to sell this to another church, under which we would protect this land as much as we would have had the Methodist Church originally gone through with the acquisition. So with this approach, and we are agreeing with an easement to cover the areas that are already protected, we would be protecting 56 of the 62 acres that was originally our objective, ensuring the preservation of that much open space. Thus, we certainly understand the need perhaps for a traffic study, other efforts, but we very much hope that this group will help affect our preservation objective, which led us to the formation of Preservation Partners. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Bob Ravener, 3rd Avenue, downtown Franklin. I am speaking tonight as a private resident, although I am directly and deeply involved in the downtown area, Friends of Franklin Parks, and a member of the Preservation Partners. And while we had hoped that that land would be protected and preserved, the fact that it is not, a church that is also offering some protections and land that would be preserved is a viable alternative. And I would just ask the Planning Commission to approve this viable alternative as a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone here representing the applicant then for this? I think we've just heard from the applicant. Okay, Greg.
Hello, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm a part of the applicant team. I'm the land planner, and I'm working with the Belonging Church. Representative from the church is here tonight, Phil Rasmussen. And this is a property that is 13.42 acres in size, currently zoned as state residential for residential uses. About 6 acres of this property is encumbered by the 150-foot scenic corridor buffer that is along Franklin Road and along McHatcher Parkway. So the intent behind preserving 50% open space is really almost there just by the nature of those scenic corridors. The access to this property is off of Daniel McMahon Road. The portion of white that you see just to the south there, that is public right-of-way. However, it is in the 100-year floodplain. And to use that road for access to single-family homes is probably not the best. To use that road as access to a church parking lot is very appropriate. The developable land is about 7 acres in size. This is not a large church. This is more of a boutique church. This is a small congregation. It's a perfect property, perfect size, perfect location for the Belongings Church, and we look forward to your support. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
Motion to approve the applicant.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Franks,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there further discussion? Any questions? Commissioner Mann?
I know you don't have to submit a site plan or development plan with this rezoning request, but where would the church go? I guess I'm a little bit lost on like where it would go. And
The most likely location to address the zoning ordinance requirements would push the church toward the corner of McHatcher and Franklin Road, with the parking lot located adjacent to the parking lot of the Methodist Church.
Okay.
But
I will add that with the site plan submittal that's required to come before the Planning Commission, a traffic study will be submitted as well.
Okay.
But additionally, while it might be pulled towards the corner, it would be set back behind the scenic corridor overlay on McHatcher and Franklin Road.
Okay.
Cannot be within the pink area that you're seeing up on the screen.
Thank you.
So, quick question, Greg. Sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. So your only access will be through Daniel McMahon Lane? There's no other access be granted by TDOT on Franklin Road?
Well, I don't know.
Other than the existing?
I don't know. When Iron Horse was approved, TDOT granted an emergency access. So could there be a gated emergency access to Franklin Road? Maybe, but the normal routine visitor patron parking access would be from Daniel McMahon, yes.
Then a traffic study will be done, I assume.
It has to be.
Yeah. What about signalization at Bahama when it comes on Franklin Road? Is that a possibility?
I don't believe that would ever be.
It's-
I know I'm way ahead of myself on that.
Yeah, it's too close to the McHatcher intersection. It would disrupt that signal timing extremely, which we can't have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I need a motion, but I've got a motion, and that's recommending approval to BOMA.
Right.
Wait a minute. I don't have a motion yet.
Mr. Franks made the motion, I made the second. Item 30.
Okay. All right, no further discussion than by roll call. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. The motion passes. Item number 33, consideration of ordinance 2024-22, an ordinance to rezone 86.52 acres from Regional Commerce 12, RC 12 district, to planned PD 6.94, $1,659,584, and 120 district for the property located west of Interstate 65 and south of Bakers Bridge Avenue at 800 Galleria Boulevard, the Cool Springs Galleria PUD subdivision. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property consists of 86.52 acres, and the applicant is requesting to rezone it from Regional Commerce 12 to Plan District with the proposed entitlements that corresponds to the accompanying development plan revision for the Cool Springs Galleria PUD subdivision. This plan includes 600 multifamily residential units, 1,659,584 square feet of both new and existing non-residential space, and 120 hotel rooms. Envision Franklin places this property in the regional commerce design concept. The rezoning requests with the proposed entitlements are in keeping with the recommendations of Envision Franklin for redevelopment within the regional commerce area. So staff recommends approval of ordinance 2024-22 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is anyone here representing the applicant? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the commission. My name's Scotty Bernick. I'm a landscape architect with Reagan Smith. I'm here on behalf of our client, CBL, who's also in attendance and will speak here in a bit. As you can see, we're requesting a rezone of the Galleria from a RC12 district to a planned district, a PD district. The Galleria has been a staple here in our community, not only from an employment standpoint, but also from a tax revenue standpoint. I should note that the Galleria is healthy. It's doing well. The reason we're here is our clients are wanting to be proactive, consider to look at what's happening around the country, explore, expand, and think beyond this year alone. We started looking at this piece of the redevelopment over 2 years ago, and we met with staff at that standpoint. When we initially kicked off, we were looking at the northwest corner of the property, specifically for, I would call it a single-phase project. That is the area of the property that makes the most sense for redevelopment around the campus. I mentioned based off feedback, we expanded that scope, and now we've looked at a multi-phase mixed-use development, again, to make sure as phase one comes in that it's set up in a nice standpoint for potential future phases. I said this at the joint conceptual workshop, but want to say it again. I mean, the goal of this project is to enhance, support, and do no harm to the Galleria. Out of respect for everyone's time tonight, I'm going to go through the rezoning piece as best I can, but since there's a development plan tied to it, I'll probably speak on bits there as well, but we'll, on the next item, go into the plan itself in a little bit more detail. A PD rezoning is necessary for the site to implement Envision Franklin as guiding principles specific to this being a unique site and having unique development characteristics. A few examples, as you look at RC12 and you would consider bringing in multifamily into a site, well, that's capped based on square footage, so much that we're unable to use the 1.5 million square foot of commercial space towards that percentage. Also, setbacks of RC12 have minimum and maximum ranges. Well, on a unique site like this, where we have a ring road, we're unable to push it all the way against Mallory and Baker's Bridge. So there's, I guess, reason and rhyme with that we're here before you for a PD. Other parts of the bulk standards, such as building heights, uses, tree canopy, are all consistent with the RC12. So we're not here to say we can't do something. It's just a matter that we're really in keeping in context with the RC12 that's there today. The PD request is consistent with the regional commerce design concept. That talks about having high intensity activity centers, employment, revenue centers, a mix of housing types, transition and intensity, and talks about being pedestrian friendly. The proposed zoning that we have before you in the subsequent development plan embraces these exact principles. When we met with you at the joint conceptual workshop, as well as getting staff comments throughout the process, we heard several items. Some of those items were, you should consider including more civic space. There's excitement for the opportunity of a public-private partnership to improve infrastructure, which I'll talk about later. The need for residential, specifically in that Cool Springs commercial area, is needed. Additional parking structures should be considered. There's a need for continued tax revenue in this area, and an appreciation for building height to not propose up to the 12 stories that the underlying RC12 district has. One of the last items that was mentioned was to consider more vertically integrated mixed-use buildings. Previously, you might remember in that phase one, we had a couple single-story commercial components. We've hit the brakes, went back. That's why you haven't heard from us in several months to take all of these different considerations and put together a plan that we think will be successful. As we talk about improvements and infrastructure improvements and traffic improvements, internally, we're improving 3 of the 4 intersections at the Galleria. So Baker's Bridge at the north of the site, we're making adjustments there to make sure that future traffic associated with the Galleria doesn't back out into the intersection. At Mallory and Crossroads Boulevard, we're making a pretty significant internal layout adjustment there that will allow a nice flow of vehicles into the site while protecting and working well with the pedestrian circulation that would come from that. Also, the exiting, there's more storage capacity to go out. So again, just improves that specific intersection. That's sort of the second most north intersection on the site. Mallory and Nickel Mill, we're looking to internally realign that intersection to align better with the existing street. We're adding a right turn lane that goes into the Galleria at that intersection, and we're also proposing to add an exit lane at that intersection as well. The one that I think we all talk about and hear about the most is the capital improvements for Mallory and Cool Springs Boulevard. The private public partnership I mentioned at the joint conceptual and again tonight is something that we're continuing to work with the city. Ultimately, we'll have to go before BOMA to finalize how that works, but our client CBL is looking to participate to make those improvements that are listed in our plan, the CIP improvements on that plan of that main intersection, with funding that would come from the impact fees as well as funding that would come from the city's bucket for the CIP projects and other impact fees in that area. This is a substantial improvement. It extends all the way from Mallory Station Road to Cool Springs Boulevard and even incorporates some improvements for an on-ramp onto I-65. So it's significant in terms of what it's doing for that specific area. At the last BOMA work session, or a couple ago, I attended, it was noted that the weighted priority list bumped that improvement up to, I think, number 6. So it's in the top 10 of the city projects. So again, we're sort of excited for an opportunity to work with the city and make improvements there. The revised development plan and the rezoning that we have before you addresses a lot of the feedback we heard at the joint conceptual workshop. This development plan and the rezoning, it protects good planning. It offers housing to our workforce in an area that we could absolutely use it. It places redevelopment in an area that has a Franklin transit stop at its location. So as we think about connectivity and transit and how we move people to and from places, it's a special place. It promotes walkability, bikeability, connectivity. It embraces Envision Franklin, and most importantly, it supports the Galleria. Before I close, I wanted to invite John Michelle up. He's with CBL, and he just had a few thoughts. I will end with, we're in agreement with the staff recommendations and appreciate your support tonight.
Thanks, Scotty. Good evening. My name is John Michelle. I'm Senior Vice President, Redevelopment for CBL Properties, office at 2030 Hamilton Place Boulevard, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Sincerely appreciate the opportunity to be before you all tonight. As you may or may not know, CBL has been involved in the Cool Springs Galleria since its opening in 1991, and the property has been a significant driver of the area's continued growth and success. CBL is dedicated to the mall's ongoing success, and our commitment to doing what's best for the long-term interest of the property and the community is what brings us before you all tonight. During the Joint Committee workshop in June, we presented a plan intended to modernize Cool Springs Galleria while sustaining and supporting the aspects of the campus that draw customers and generate sales tax revenue. Our goal is to deliver a project that complements existing development throughout the corridor while elevating the campus into the type of mixed-use environment that provides diverse housing options that Franklin needs. Through partnership with the city, there is a unique opportunity to address needed traffic improvements to support continued growth in the area. The result will be an amenity-rich residential community that is fully integrated into the existing campus through pedestrian pathways and green and civic spaces. Once again, we are really excited to be here tonight. We are excited to continue the partnership. The mall, as Scotty stated, is healthy, it's doing well, and what we are talking about doing is investing into the future of the mall to continue to sustain it and bring it forward into its mixed-use future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for, and this is recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct.
Yep. By Commissioner Harrison. Second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion? Seeing,
Sorry, that wasn't
Mann?
me being rude. I was just clearing my throat.
Oh.
I really like this proposal. I liked it when you brought it before the joint conceptual workshop. I think one of the biggest struggles with the mall now is the parking, but that's mostly on the south side, I think. So I really like that we're looking at the north side first. And I don't think that'll impact parking. I'm assuming you all have done those parking studies. And I know the retail tenants on that side are very particular about their parking requirements. So I anticipate that's been worked out privately between JCPenney's and Macy's. So anyway, no, I appreciate you guys forward thinking on this. I think it's a great value add to the community, and I like it a lot.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, please.
Yes.
We're supposed to be talking about the rezoning and then the development.
Yeah, this is rezoning, and the next item is for the development.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Unless we can vote for both of them at one time, I think we should separate them back to annexation and then the development plan.
Good point.
Rezoning, not annexation.
Yeah, rezoning.
rezoning. First.
33, that's where we are.
But now, and we're talking about the development plan now, which is also the next item.
Yeah, I did get ahead of myself a little
So
bit.
it is, I would just like to get it back into, let's
Okay.
put on the annexation, then we can move on to the development plan.
Okay, but we need to say what those changes are, to the 120 hotel keys, the the PD 6.94 and so on. That, because it's going to have residential there.
Yeah.
But that is in the rezoning.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? So this is on the rezoning. And our motion by Commissioner Harrison is to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So, by roll call, Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. So item number 34 is a consideration of Resolution 2024-70, a resolution approving a revised development plan for Cool Springs Galleria PUD subdivision for the property located west of Interstate 65 and south of Bakers Bridge Avenue, located at 1800 Galleria Boulevard. So, staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant has submitted a revision to the Cool Springs Galleria PUD subdivision development plan, for the property located west of Interstate 65 and south of Bakers Bridge Road at 1800 Galleria Boulevard. The property consists of 86.52 acres. With this development plan revision, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property from RC12 to Plan District with the proposed entitlements. The plan includes 600 multifamily residential units, 1,659,584 square feet of new and existing non-residential space, and 120 hotel rooms. Envision Franklin places its property in the regional commerce design concept. Areas within regional commerce contain high-intensity activity centers that attract large numbers of people and employers from both within and outside of the city. These areas include major employment and revenue generators that are valuable community resources, while also providing a mix of housing options that support a healthy, vibrant place to live, work, and play. Development should transition in intensity and scale across this design concept. Higher intensity uses should be located closer to the I-65 interchanges and major thoroughfares, with less intensive uses transitioning to established residential areas. New development should have a pedestrian-friendly design and distinctive character. Infill buildings and associated parking structures are expected and encouraged to replace large surface parking lots. The plan proposes new development in the existing service parking lots, providing 84,555 square feet of new restaurant and retail space, as well as 600 multifamily units. For new multifamily residential uses, Envision Franklin recommends that the entire first floor facing the street should have commercial spaces with residential on upper levels. In locations where commercial use on the ground floor is not viable due to topographical or environmental constraints or lack of visibility from a major street, multifamily units should provide individual ground floor entrances, stoops, or front porches, and pedestrian connections to the street or to an internal drive. The buildings range in height from 1 to 8 stories, including an 8-story hotel with 120 keys. The new construction offers retail and amenity space on the ground floor with multifamily residential units up on the upper floors. Envision Franklin recommends that buildings where feasible should be sited or designed to create public spaces such as plazas, outdoor seating areas, etc., that are easily accessible from adjacent streets or sidewalks. While this project meets the minimum recommended policies of Envision Franklin for the regional commerce design concept, the proposed plan does not demonstrate the larger guiding principle of exceptional design in terms of integrating high-quality design of buildings, public spaces, streets, pedestrian facilities, and landscaping in order to enhance the public realm and create exceptional places for people. The amount of usable open space provided is still minimal, Additional open space in the form of a large plaza or greenway with amenities could help make this a distinctive destination and contribute to the activation of the property. Staff does acknowledge that retrofitting existing development sites to create new, special places for people is a challenge, and since the policies of the regional commerce design concept have ultimately been met with this revised development plan, staff recommends approval with conditions. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none. Is there someone here represent? Yes, you want to touch on the development plan?
Good evening, Scotty Bernick. Yeah, I just wanted to walk through some of the pieces of the development plan. I think Joey, you said it best on sort of the last comment. If we have a greenfield site, when we look at a layout, there's a lot more opportunity to really assess the placemaking, how it works, and we would do things probably differently if we took this 80-acre site and looked at it today. That said, we have a lot of what I call design challenges between existing agreements, culverts, property lines, utilities everywhere, while still trying to maintain and keep the Galleria open with all the tenants still operating. We definitely incorporated, as I mentioned previously, a lot of the feedback we heard at Joint Conceptual Workshop as well as from staff. A lot of the improvements are within that phase one. So we eliminated the single-story buildings. Also, when we eliminated the single-story buildings at northwest corner of phase one, we eliminated a lot of that surface parking lot. In order to account for a more vertical mixed-use product type where we do have a commercial on the ground floor with resi above, we'll have a structure parking interior to that product. So it'll be a wrap product with nice looking facades on every side. One of our, again, I call it design challenge, or maybe a sales challenge if you're asking the guys behind me, is to not compete with the existing retail, restaurant, commercial space that's there today. So when we look at ground floor, what we've done is on this mixed use building, we've oriented it directly towards the existing Galleria. That puts it at the smallest walkable point, so you can go in and out of the Galleria with ease. We've provided a pedestrian corridor that directly would connect you to and from through very nice focal points to put pedestrians first over the vehicular traffic. We've looked at incorporating a better massing plan. So phase one has massing, meaning as we're looking at the ring road as our new frontage, having a good mass that respects that new streetscape that we'll place there. We've also considered height. So on this phase one building, which again I talk about, this is probably the biggest adjustment. It's two different levels. The first part would be up to 5 stories, and that's sort of at the corner of Baker's Bridge and Mallory. And as the building transitions back above that commercial space, and it goes up to 7 stories. So you can start seeing this really appropriate stair step design that works its way back into our up to 8-story future development. Up to 8 stories could be for that multifamily. Again, as we're looking at RC12 and how the area could be developed, the higher intensity of those 12 stories probably against the interstate, where we are thinking of those really methodical stair steps to create that nice, again, that streetscape and the sense of scale. As part of our shifts, we've maintained the pedestrian walk, which was one of my favorite points. It's a really large walk. It's not just a 5-foot walk. It was adjacent to the woodland along Mallory. We pulled it into the site to avoid the stream buffer. And what that does is it helps us activate that ground floor residential, ground floor retail along that whole corridor. So we still maintain it, and it gets activated that way. We've also enhanced the walkability throughout the development from a traffic standpoint. The circulation, it's a little bit more on a grid system than we had previously. We're able to enhance that main intersection as you're coming into this part of the development. But with the streetscape internally, again, the challenge that we have is we have Mallory, we have a ring road, then we have our what I would call back of house against the Galleria. So we have all of these frontages, and what we're doing is prioritizing each of the streetscapes and how that works. That said, all of the internal drives we've really dressed them up to provide the walks, have parallel parking. So change a little bit of that. I'm walking through a 90-degree surface parking lot as you're going from place to place. In the center of this, which I'm going to call the mini Central Park, we have retail and restaurant anchors in that space. This is sort of the heart between the two mixed-use buildings. So you would have commercial sort of on each side with the resi above. Again, this spreads the resi out in a good fashion. As noted earlier, we're coming in really looking at phase one. So the mixed-use building has commercial, it has residential units in there. Again, that will help kickstart the plan and put some energy out there. We are in agreement with all staff conditions of approval. We've not requested any modifications of standard and would appreciate your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Scotty.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that item?
I move for approval. We move to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Recommend approval. Commissioner Mann. And a second.
I'll second it. Did we have a public? Yeah, okay, sorry. My fault.
I think I called for public comment.
Yeah, he did.
So we got a proper motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann and a second by Commissioner Harrison. Any further discussion?
Can you make a comment? I'd just like to say.
Speaking to your microphone, I'm deaf as a post.
With all of these malls closing up across America, I am so glad to hear that the mall here is doing good. I wanted to say that. And also, I'm excited about this project. How many years are we talking? The timeline on this, on completing all of this?
So it will be our intention to execute phase one as soon as possible. So we would put that into the development cycle as soon as possible. The remainder of the master plan is subject to a bunch of future agreements and tenants, changing. So it's really to set it up for the future. There is no definitive timeline on the rest of the project, but phase one is ready to move forward when approved.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And a good
Thank
use
you.
of all of that parking, vacant parking that was there so long. We just had a sea of parking, and we're just grateful to see some good uses being done with that.
Thank you. I'm glad you think so.
I think that's what's so exciting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can you speak a minute on what you're doing to the addition at J.C. Penney's, that flag-shaped structure? Is that an addition to Penney's or something?
It's intended to create the opportunity to put an addition on that building. It's not an imminent plan for us to add an addition to JCPenney, but it is intended to create a larger footprint in the future.
It's just an unusual shape where it goes down one side of the building, almost like a hallway or something.
It just creates a rectangle is really why it looks that way. So it is unusual. I agree.
I was going to say, I think that the phased approach is, I think that's kind of what's exciting about this is that we can readjust, we can see the traffic patterns and readjust, and we know what the existing traffic patterns are. This isn't a massive development that has to be done all at once. And so I think the phased approach is, I think, a really big benefit to this project.
Totally agree and really appreciate the staff supporting that vision at the get-go. I mean, that was really encouraged by staff, and we agree and think it's a good opportunity to start meaningful reinvestment and to be set up for additional meaningful reinvestment in the medium term. And these properties require constant investment, so it's good. It's good for us. It's good for the community, and it's really good for the mall.
Great. Okay.
I guess
No, just one final comment.
No.
So,
I was just going to say, there have been so many places that did not make it in the last few years, and this has really been a very good result, I think. And of course, actually, I was probably on the planning commission when it was first approved. I remember that, I think at that first year, didn't they say that the sales tax in our city doubled
Probably
in the first year?
Probably did. So my colleagues and I are here. We've been with the company since the late 90s, 1997, 1998, and 1999. It was built in 1991. So it
Well,
predates us. But we've been there for a long time.
That's right.
So.
I do remember one thing specifically, whenever they were talking about, breaking ground and everything, and it was going to be opened before, I guess, in the late summer so that, it could get the fall.
Back to school.
Back to school,
Yeah.
exactly, and everything. And so someone said, well, aren't you sure going to get this, can you get this done by this time? And the person who was in charge of the construction said, it will open at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever it was, on a certain day. And it did open at that time, on that day, on that very day.
I just wanted to compliment y'all on the running of that mall. Y'all done really well to adapt to changes and keep it sustainable. I moved here in 93 right after the mall opened. 92, right after the mall opened, and seen it come a long way. And not to give you any ideas or anything, but I'm starting to see reports where a lot of malls are taking their big boxes and converting them to multifamily in-house. So I'm glad y'all are not doing that.
They're all opportunistic. So, our big boxes are all operating and doing well. So that's not the plan at this time. But multifamily brings a lot of 18-hour synergy to the campus and really supports the retail and the restaurant. So we think it's a huge step into the future. And look, we are very appreciative of the commission and everybody in the city of Franklin. It's a partnership to make a property this successful.
Thank you.
And when we
Appreciate
go
it.
there are people with purchase sacks walking around in the mall all the time, which is
Also good for everybody.
From other counties.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? Thank you very much. By roll call, Commissioner Allen's absent. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. That motion passes. I think we have one final item, item number 35. The Gant Ridge subdivision preliminary plat, creating 9 single-family residential lots and 1 open space lot on 6.57 acres located at 580 Jordan Road. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plat for the property located at 580 Jordan Road. The property consists of 6.57 acres and is located within the R2 zoning district. The plan proposes 9 single-family residential lots and 1 open space lots, with 5 lots fronting onto Jordan Road and 4 lots fronting onto Firestone Drive. All lot sizes and dimensions meet the R2 district standards for new residential development. We were notified this afternoon of the applicant requesting a deferral of this item. It was already publicly noticed as a public hearing, so anyone who is here for this item is welcome to speak, but the applicant has requested deferral.
Okay, so it is public noticed. So does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? You're welcome to come to the, I've got Jimmy Tullis.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My wife is here with me also, and we live at 604 Jordan Road. And thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. We'd like to just provide a brief context of why this involves us, and that's because we live adjacent to 580 Jordan Road. And our main concern, and not necessarily the only one, is how the developers are going to handle the stormwater runoff, which has been like a small river running across our property for a long time. But we've been working with the developers through our attorney to negotiate a contract with them for the installation of an underground storm drain across our property, partially in return for a 35-foot strip of land between us and 580 Jordan Road. We have a memorandum of understanding now. We do not have a finalized contract yet. Our concerns basically are, they do relate to the storm drain installation, how it will affect our property, the storm water and the sewer connections, because Franklin Ridge will also be connecting to the sewer connection that's in our driveway. So that's that's a little bit of the deal also. Our driveway, culverts, trees, landscaping, a vintage rock wall that's in front of our property, fencing, and a potential few other items. We do appreciate meeting with Mr. Jimmy Wiseman, and I like that outfit, Sandra. And Miss Amy Diaz-Baringa. Okay. Well, thank you. We met with them, and together we did review the preliminary plat, and they answered a lot of our questions that we had. And they also advised us that there would be construction plans that would be submitted by the developers. There would be meetings with the city engineers and the planning, and they encouraged us to attend those meetings where we could continue in discussions with our questions and concerns in a more detailed fashion, because tonight was not about the details of that. So it is our belief that those future meetings will be beneficial, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Did anybody else wish to speak to this item? Okay. Is there someone here representing the applicant on this project?
Good evening. My name is John Newman. I'm with M2 Group. We're the engineers and the surveyors for this project. And as Mr. Bryan indicated, we'd like to defer this item to the January agenda so that we can address some of the issues that the neighboring property has brought up.
Okay. So we've got an applicant that wishes to defer. Do we have a motion to defer this to the January meeting?
Move to defer to January 23rd, 2025, Planning Commission meeting.
January 23rd.
January 23rd.
And I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion to defer until January the 23rd of 2025 by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson is absent. So that motion passes. That they're deferred till January.
Thank you.
Is there any other business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Let's, is there, everybody that is inclined to adjourn, say aye in a loud resounding voice? Aye. Anybody opposed?
No.
That motion carries.
Chairman, you're so